Today I want to talk about Funny Games. Funny Games is actually two films directed by Michael Haneke. Funny Games has two versions that are shot for shot exactly the same. And that in and of itself says a lot about what this film is trying to do. What is the intention of Funny Games? Okay, so the premise of Funny Games is an upper-class family, white family, are driving to the lake where they are going to spend the weekend together. Once they get to the lake house, they are very quickly greeted by young men who don't necessarily do anything to alarm them. Nothing explicitly alarming, but this implicit tone, almost like this malicious playfulness. It's really creepy how Michael Haneke does it in both films. And it has a lot to do with how it's shot, the acting, the direction. And as the story evolves, these kids slowly start to show their presence and what their intentions are and how far they're willing to take it. The film becomes a violent escapade in almost like a cat and mouse game that these kids are playing on this family. There's even a moment in this film where it takes notice of itself. It breaks the fourth wall. He doesn't just break the fourth wall. He actually gives his character, the antagonist of his story, control over the ability to rewind the story, almost like a postmodernist or even like a postmodernist way of bringing the audience into the storyline and creating a sense of immediate reflection between what's happening on the screen to what's happening with the audience. The audience is no longer just an accessory to what's happening on the screen. The audience is a player in what happened on the screen. And then 10 years later, Michael Haneke makes the same film. Now it was released in America in 2007. American culture has always been seen as decadent, especially over the last maybe 30, 40 years. And our relationship with violence, from video games, from movies, from comic books, the news, that is a huge commentary in other parts of the world and amongst ourselves. Are violent video games creating violent people? Are violent movies creating violent people? Is pop culture influencing us, or are we influencing pop culture, or are they some kind of mirror to one another? And the answer to all of it is yes. We are a mirror for what we watch. And that's what Michael Haneke is trying to say, is that we are active participants in the things that we observe. And by making a film that is so realistic, exceedingly violent, as well as using these postmodernist techniques to touch the audience and bring them in, he's saying something very specific. This is a thesis. This is somebody who understands what he's experiencing in the world, and he's trying to use his platform as a filmmaker to now comment on us. I first came across Funny Games by accident. I think I had a really tough time sleeping one night, probably because I was drinking too much coffee late in the day. Nothing has changed in my life. I want to say it was about 2008, 2009. Like, this wasn't too far from when it was originally released in America. And I think it came on HBO or Showtime or something like that. And one of the first things that struck me is the opening scene. In the opening scene, what you get is you get a family in a very nice neighborhood, driving a nice vehicle in very nice clothes, clean, upper middle class white, driving through these beautiful streets covered in trees, and over top, death metal, just screaming thrash death metal. The singer's not singing. This torturous squeal bombastic noise of guitar and electronics and drum. It's just this blitzkrieg of sound and torture. Immediately, there's this style that just boom, uppercut. And I remember it being such an impression. Just that opening really pushed me to stay with the film, even when things didn't have much action. There's not much action in the first 30, 40 minutes into what I can only describe as borderline snuff film. That's really what it turns into, is a borderline snuff film with a meaning. The way it's shot and edited is so realistic that we have no choice but to relate to it, but to see ourselves in those situations because it looks so real, because it feels real, and the acting makes it real. The actors believe that what's happening is actually happening. You can usually sense when an actor is acting. You know, even when you're dealing with great actors, you can sometimes sense it. But this film has actors that are just portraying these characters and these events so naturally and so truthfully that it does not feel like an act. It doesn't feel like they're playing a role. It feels like you got dropped into somebody's life and you're experiencing it. You know, there's nowhere for you to go. You're experiencing the world in this frame, and it's real. What you're watching is not fun. What you're watching is a reflection of your life. And once the villains make that direct eye contact with you through the lens, it's incredibly jarring, because now it's no longer a sense of reality. You feel like you are part of it. There's no escape. I've seen both the Austrian or German and the American, and man, they're both great films. What's different is the context. What's even more interesting about the fact that they're remakes of each other, shot-for-shot remakes, is that the concepts that were expressed in the film in 1997 are still prevalent, and probably even exponentially more prevalent in America 10 years later. And that's why I consider this film a piece of art. It is a craftsman using his craft to express something both personal as well as sociological. That's why I love this film. It's not fun to watch. It's not something you would throw on a Friday night date with the lady or a date with the man. But if you're into film and you're into art and you want to watch something that's going to push you, that's going to make you feel something, that's going to provoke you to think, Funny Games is exactly what you need. You can find a link for both versions of the film down below, as well as a link for all the gear that I've been using to make these videos. Thank you for watching, and go check out Funny Games. Have a good day.